I'll tell you, the traffic in the tunnels might be bumper to bumper, but the sports takes are sizzling hot as we welcome you into today's episode of the SAC FLY on 96.9 WFMZ. It is Monday, March 31st. My name is Gord Simmons, and I am joined by my co-host of 30 years, Dick Playoff Richards. Dick, how we doing today?
Good, thank you so much. I'm doing great. I'm doing all right. We got a lot going on in New York sports right now, and I'm happy to be here with you another day. Happy to get the people through the 4 to 5 rush hour traffic getting home. I know I-95 is a hellhole right now, but what are you gonna do? It always has been, but that's what you get when you're in the East Coast. So. We are back. Obviously, every day. It's been a while since we've had the opportunity to come. And just kind of split it up here. So I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. Our careers have been intertwined for God knows how long. We always say, we were beat writers back in the 80s. We've been beating it together for 30 years, and it's good to have this relationship continue. Now the sports media landscape has changed so much. You got everybody podcasting and making the TikToks and everything. My son's always showing me that stuff, showing me all these reels and posts and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, the radio, that's where all the magic happens, and I'm glad that we're still here doing what we do.
Well, you know what it is, Gord. Everybody's out there for sound bites. I get this guy, Stephen A. Smith, over at ESPN.
Oh, my. Don't even get me started.
Yeah, he's just hopping on King James. And, we're more of a Michael Jordan, Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer.
Bill Laimbeer.
We love, they wouldn't stand a chance back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But, Stephen A. Smith, he's barking up the wrong tree, It just really pisses me off. And, But that's a whole another thing. We were in talks with ESPN back in the day, but they didn't like our color, they said, and our color commentating. So whatever. We got good sponsors here. We got good management here at the SAC FLY. So we're pumped up.
I'll tell you, I'm always proud to be broadcasting over the radio waves of WFMZ. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, if you had told me 30 years ago that you'd still have a job speaking on the radio, I'd call you crazy.
Absolutely. I think we still are kind of crazy.
That's what that is true. That is true, Gord. But that's why the people love us. So before we get this episode rolling, I just want to shout out our wonderful sponsors. They've been with us for 30 years. Actually, James and Tommy. So we got James Deli, best subs in the city, and of course Tommy Jones. They were our friends back in preschool.
75th and 10th.
Pre-K, 75th and 10th. Monday ritual. I'm getting a pizza slice after this episode. They were friends back in the kindergarten days. So the fact that we're all in this together,
I'll tell you, you remember back in those days, back on the ball field, I'll tell you, James had a beautiful free throw. Nobody could hit it from the line like he did. I'm shocked that he didn't make it to the league. And Tommy, let's just say he liked to eat more than he liked to play.
Yeah, but you know why we had to, okay, Tommy, if you listen, just close your ears for a second. Yeah, but remember, Tommy, the reason that we were, friends with him mainly because he had the ballpark right behind his house, and he had
absolutely.
They actually had bases. They left the bases out 24 hours. Usually people will pull them up and put them back on the weekends, but we could go play during the weekdays after school, and that was such a treat. We go over and they always had pizza at the house. His mom Denise, she family recipe. That's why it's so good. Of course, I think
if I remember correctly, the years of run and kind of distorted my memory a little bit, but that's where you really fell in love with the game. And you had a heck of a run in baseball, and couldn't quite make the majors, but you're still playing softball, getting ready, dusting off that old glove for another year out there. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I remember, man. That was the only park that had street lights that would stay on past 9 or past 10. And so we would, we put in a lot of work there. But the softball season's kicking up. I'm still playing. I'm just pitching or playing first base. I don't play the field anymore. And, when I hit, I still got some power, but it takes a lot for me to hit a dinger, hit one out of the park. So, I'm just playing smart baseball. We know that. We know how to play smart baseball.
Absolutely. So. It's all about the fundamentals. I'm telling my kid he's still stuck on this baseball thing, and he's hanging in there, but they want the clips, they want the sound bites on the field, and you gotta be able to
spin right.
Exactly. You got to take 500 swings, you got to practice bunts. Nobody in the cages is practicing the bunt anymore. And my son, I'm like, hey, you got to master the fundamentals if you want any of these scouts to take a look at you. But But I mean, they're at that age. I mean, with your kids, I mean, you can't tell them at that age.
Now, at some point, you gotta let them run. You gotta let them do what they want to do. But I think you really gotta tell them, man. If you have a guy that can lay down a good bunt and move the pieces, move the pawn pieces across, that's where the most important runs come from. When you
see it all the time in the playoffs. It's
basically stealing a base.
Seventh inning, eighth inning, they'll have a runner on, and they're coming to the bottom of the lineup. You got to move the runner over, turn the lineup over, and get the good hitters back up. Nobody can lay down bunts. They'll miss it. They'll pop it up. They'll go in foul territory, and they're giving away outs. I mean, if we gotta keep practicing the fundamentals and play small ball. I mean, that's how all the team. When we were kids, oh my goodness, everybody could. Mickey Mantle could bunt, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's just like you said, that's the fundamentals. That's
you gotta
be able to get it on the first one, because that's where the surprise element is. And if you lose it, you lose it.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I believe the Dodgers laid down a real nice bunt in the World Series last year against our Yanks.
Case in point, they beat them in 5.
Yeah, they did. So I know we'll get to that. But all right, moving on with today's episode. As you guys know, we like to start with, what the hell does it mean? What does it mean? And this is one of my favorite. And actually, this is a very special one, because we have, some history being made. That is
some colleagues of ours.
Yeah. So our term today is going to be around the horn. And obviously, we're baseball guys, and everybody out there should know what around the horn means. And that refers to the infields after an out. Usually, when the bases are empty, they throw the ball around. Go third base, to second base, the shortstop, to first base, the pitcher. Different teams do it a little bit differently, but you kind of throw it around. And where does that come from? So,
where does it come from?
If you think about in South America, they have the Cape Horn. And back in the day, every time you'd have to go around the horn, around the Cape, and it was a very long and dangerous journey, arduous journey. And so it was a little bit out of the way. It was before the Panama Canal was discovered, and it was a little bit of a longer trek. And so when you're throwing the baseball around, bopping around to different people, it's just a longer way to get back to the pitcher. But it shows a lot of class, and it's a kind of a flair that the baseball gods blessed us with back in the day.
I'll tell you, I'd like to see the container ship start going around the horn again. Just kind of get back to tradition a little bit. I mean, there's no shame, as I know a lot of people out there taking the long way home.
Yeah,
had a tough day at work. You got to decompress a little bit. I mean, same thing. With these mariners out there. Take the long way.
Well, sometimes when you're driving through the city, you got to go around the horn, because if you go right down the belly, you're going to be stuck in traffic for 2-3 hours. And we just don't have time. But another reason I wanted to bring up this phrase, our good friends Tony Reale over there at ESPN, we actually do. They're in Washington D.C. They record in the same studio as Tony and Wilbon with PTI. And Around the Horn's been a show for 23 years, and their final show is Friday, May 23rd at 5 p.m. Eastern. And that's the last time that they're going to be on the airwaves. And man, it is a sad day when you see an establishment, something so critical to the sports commentating world, to go down. All good things come to an end, and things pass away, and it's really sad to see the boys closing up shop.
I'll tell you, ESPN over there, they got the budget of all of the actual journalists out there, and it's more money for Stephen A., more money for Pat McAfee, and you hate to see it. I mean, think of all of our great colleagues that have been on that show over the year. I mean, you got Woody Page out west. I mean, even though we hate Woody. Boston, Jackie McMullen, Bob Ryan from the Globe up top. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, you had the old school, the new school, and they all came together to go around the horn together. And I mean, I'll tell you, some of those battles that those guys had. Just top-notch stuff. I mean, we were in conversation with them.
We've been on there a few times. We've hopped on. I mean, obviously, they've had so many different writers come on and speak, and that was the best part about the show. So they've been doing it for 20 years, and you go there, you get your start. You bust your chops. You're gonna get the licks down, and that's how you get a job. That's how you move to your own. You have your own show and move around. So it's kind of an audition. It's it's a playoff. I mean, I'm not a playoff. It's a spring training, and they did that for so many of our colleagues to get really into their field, and I loved it. I loved our time on there.
It's the end of an era. No respect for the fundamentals, as we said. I mean, it's the ESPN pulling around the horn from the air is like the hitting coach saying that we're not going to practice bunting anymore. It's a shame. You hate to see it. But I'm excited to be there in May, be in the studio and hang out with the guys after the last show.
Right. And then when they tell PTI to shut it down and they decide hopefully it's on Tony and Michael's and Wilbon's terms, but when they go off the air, man, I don't know if I'll be able to do this anymore.
I won't be able to stand it, man.
In solidarity, we might have to close up shop as well.
Might have to pull ourselves from the airwaves. Yeah, we'll see. God willing, that's not going to be for a very, very long time. So our condolences to all the fine folks that are around the horn, and let's continue here. We got some birthdays to celebrate. We got some events in sports history today for March 31st, and let's start going back to 1928. On this day, the great Gordie Howe was born. I believe the only individual that played professional hockey in 5 different decades. He played in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. He played with his sons. He was, one of the best, if not the best of all time. 801 goals, 1,850 total points. Those Red Wing teams were a juggernaut back in the day, in the days of the original 6. And I remember as a boy, they'd come into town, into Madison Square Garden, and really give our Rangers a licking. But Gordie Howe, one of the best out there. Obviously, Gordie Howe hat trick. You get a goal, an assist, and a fight all in the same game. I love that. They're trying to take away fighting from the game, but sometimes you got to lay some discipline down, and Gordie Howe certainly knew how to do that.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Gordie Howe was named after you, right, Gord? Because you're older than dirt.
I don't like to mention it very often. I'm a humble guy, but it is true. Gordie Howe is my namesake. He's mine.
Yeah. And Sinbin, you could call him Sinbin as well. So
absolutely.
But yeah, happy birthday, Gordie Howe, one of the GOATs. Moving up to 1946, one other thrower, an athlete, Klaus Wolfermann, the German athlete. He was a javelin thrower, and he actually has an Olympic gold in 72. And he held the world record with the old rules at 94.06 in 1973. And that is an absolute chuck, a super, super long throw. And I just wanted to bring that up because, my son, he said he's going for LA 2028. What am I going to say? He's battling some injuries. He's got his rotator cuff is just torn to shreds. With all that baseball coming up and now the javelin's even harder on his body. But he's like, I gotta go one more cycle. And what are you gonna do as a father? I just said, all right, buckle up.
I'll tell you, we got to get our kids together because I'm trying my hardest to get my kid, maybe into some different sports other than the baseball. My kid's velocity's got to be up to, he's got to be throwing the 90s right now, and he's touching 81, 82. And he just wants to throw hard. He's not. I'm telling him, if you can't throw hard, you gotta locate. You gotta locate your pitches. You gotta work with the catcher there. But same thing. All these TikToks and these post-ins that he's making. He's got to focus. You gotta walk before you can run. And I know we know a lot about that around here with these 30 years on the air.
All you can do is support him, but if he's not touching 90 by the end of this year, you're gonna have to have one. You have to take him to the woodshed maybe and talk to him a little bit. It's tough.
Seriously. And then the wife is always like, oh, he likes the baseball, so you got to keep him. But I'm like Charlene, he's gotta. If he wants to take these sports far, he's got to do something where he can have some success in baseball. He's gonna wash out.
You've been in the locker rooms and you know exactly what it takes from these guys. And Charlene, love her to death, great lady, but does she really understand? She can be a real pain in my what? Does she? Yeah, exactly. Of course, you got to throw. Now you're throwing money at baseball all the time.
Just throw money at the problem.
Because camps and pitching coaches, all these things.
Spot on.
I digress. We're going around the horn on this episode. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. So that's what we got for the birthdays. I'm going to kick this back over to you for this day in sports. We can kick us off here because I think this one, the first one, you're a little excited about.
Yeah, all right. The earliest edition.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so in 1974, this one I just wanted to bring up because American golfer Lee Trevino, he goes bogey-free in the full 4 rounds that wins the Greater New Orleans Open by 8 strokes for Bobby Cole. And the reason I wanted to bring this up, we love golf and we love getting the sticks out, and this man went bogey-free for 4 rounds. Gordy, have you ever had a round that was bogey-free And don't lie on air because you know we're being taped.
I can't lie. That's the thing. I've never had a round like that, let alone 4 back to back to back to back. I've never competed in the Greater New Orleans Open, and certainly never had a performance like Lee Trevino did.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows why we go on the course, and that's to have a few brews with the boys, get away from the wives.
Get away from the wives a little bit, have some fun.
The kids.
Absolutely. Yeah, so what a great to mark that anniversary today. Also on this day in 1975, the 37th NCAA Men's Basketball Championship, UCLA defeated Kentucky 92-86. It was the 10th title under Coach John Wooden, who had announced his retirement only 2 days prior to that championship game. And I'll tell you, Wooden, one of the great minds, not just of the sports world, but I think, speaking of American icons, John Wooden is right up there with Benjamin Franklin or Pete
Mickey
Weber.
Mantle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, he's in the pantheon.
Yeah, and it's March right now. We got some games finishing up for the weekend.
Madness.
We got the madness. We got the championship coming up. Everybody's talking about who's the greatest NCAA player of all time, who's the greatest coach of all time. And if you don't bring up Bill Walton and John Wooden and their chemistry, they won 3 championships in a row. Maybe
too many to count.
It was during their incredible run. And Bill Walton had 44 in the final game. I mean, that's a championship record. And they were led by John. And, John, we had a lot of great conversations with him back in the day. Champion choices, make a champion life. And this guy was on his Q's and T's all the time. And I'm really, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the great John Wooden. Really just a stellar coach. And honestly, he's the coach's coach. He's what everybody looks up to. I know people like Coach K and whatnot. I mean, you got Pitino and Calipari that we may talk about later.
But I mean, Wooden is one of one. I mean, even here in the studio, I mean, a man of many great quotes. And I'm glad a couple of years ago you decided to put up the Wooden quote: "Talent is God-given. Be humble. Fame is man-given. Be grateful. Conceit is self-given. Be careful." The cautionary tale.
The cautionary tale. You got a lot of it. A lot of them.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I think that wraps up this day in music, or this day in sports history. We got a ton. I was thinking about our other show that we do on Tuesdays, our music show.
I'll tell you, right next door, they record those music shows and they just play everything so loudly they're warping my brain here. I mean, I don't know what's popular these days, but there's not really, all I know is there's no Sinatras anymore. There's no Dean Martin. We're really missing some of that. I mean, people walking around in those grunge pants and you can't even understand what they're saying. It's not for me. I might be showing my age a little bit, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, I found a CD in my son's room the other day. It had this naked baby on it, and I said, I was like, what is this? What is this, son? Are you getting into something I should be concerned about? He said, no, it's Nirvana. He's talking about it smells like Teen Spirit.
The hell is Teen Spirit?
Well, yeah. Well, I think it's our wife's cologne. I think I smelled. I saw it on a package. It said Teen Spirit.
They're writing songs about that now.
Well, I said Teen Spirit. That seems a little provocative for an older lady like you to be. Yeah, that got me sent to the sin bin in our house. So
next thing you know, they're going to be writing songs about jewelry boxes and black holes. What the hell?
Yeah, it's a weird time we live in. So, okay, now we got all the fluff done. We're getting to the rundown, the main point. And we're going to talk all sports, everything coming through. And this is a big one. We love track and field on this show. We've talked about a lot. We talked about the different throwing events, javelin, shot put, discus. And this one is a very close athlete. He was actually on our I think it was an honorable mention last year.
Our countdown of the top 10 athletes of the 21st century. And I'll tell you, after this performance that we're going to talk about, I think he might find his way into that top 10.
This is exactly what he needed. Yeah. So our friend Roger Steen, USA shot putter, they had the indoor world championships just last week in Nanjing, China. And USA is always represented really well at these major championships. And Roger Steen, on his final throw, he was in 5th place. Tom Walsh from New Zealand was number 1. We actually had another U.S. guy, Trip Pippery, was in 3rd or 2nd at the time, and then the big Italian, Leonardo Fabri. He's one of your kin, but what are you gonna do? We're rooting for USA in this case. Roger Steen on his final throws 21.62, 3 centimeters short of first place, goes from 5th to silver medal, and just an incredible moment for the man. He came from D3, or was it D2?
Somewhere way out
dude,
there.
I think he was a D3, and that's what I tell my kid, and you don't need to go to the best all the time. You just need to show up and play a game. And Roger Steen, that's what he does. He just lifts in heavy weights somewhere in Wisconsin, and he just hammering away. And, man, silver medal is nothing to be scoffed at there, Gord.
No, especially when your back's up against the wall like Rogers was. I mean, when the pressure's on, I mean, the greats,
Big back.
That's when they have their best performances. And, he shows us time and time again that he's capable of doing that. And, I got to clip what you just said earlier. You don't have to go with all the glitz and glam to get to where you want to go. I think I got to tell my son that, because every single day, he's picking up this new bat and gloves, the Evo shields, the shin guards, the Miami crew neck sweatshirts, and sometimes
the black eye tape costs like $50 for a little canister.
They wear it at night.
Nowadays.
It's not even sunny out.
They wear it, with sunglasses.
Doesn't make any sense, And the other thing too, not to get too far away from Roger Steen, but these kids, they wear these baggy pants to play baseball. They're not showing the socks. They're not wearing the stirrups anymore. I mean, where's your pride for your team? You got to show your colors, and they don't want to because they think it's cool. They got the baggy pants. They tuck them underneath the spikes on the bottom of the shoe. I'll tell you the TikToks and the clips and everything. It's tough, but I mean, you see somebody like Roger Steen, great example for the young ones. You put in the work. Doesn't matter where you are, and you can have success. You go from 5th to 2nd on your last attempt. I mean, that is the stuff of legend.
And that's why we love the sport. That's why we love weightlifting. You got 500 pounds in Wisconsin. You got 500 pounds in New York. They both weigh the same thing.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. And so, congrats to Roger Steen, man. You really cemented yourself in the world of sports and track and field, and that's gonna be next to his name for the rest of his life. No one can take that away from him, and that's why we love sports.
Yeah, a little bit closer to home. There's been a lot going on, as you said. It's March Madness, and St. John's is alive. I'll tell you, when they made the decision to hire Rick Pitino and bring him back in. I mean, he's turned that program around. Little disappointed with the performance there against Arkansas. John Calipari, once again, he's my cugino mio, but at the end of the day, I'm a New York guy. I'm backing Rick Pitino. He's got the roots that we like around here, and little disappointing to see that loss, but I mean, that total turnaround of the program. And the best thing I like about Pitino, he's coming to St. John's and he's being disciplined. He's being hard on the kids. Nowadays, everybody with the coaches, they're like, oh, the coaches can't yell at the players. They can't, maybe cuss a little bit. But that's what that's how we learned. You remember our first show back in the day, our producer, you gotta lay it in. You gotta storm into the room and maybe throw some stuff, throw a chair into the wall. You got to get your message across, and Pitino's been doing that for years, and I'm excited to see, how we can build on this year and hopefully make it a little bit further in the NCAA tournament next year.
Well, that was the most controversial part, was our best player, and
he sits
I think he was 2 for 13, 3 for 15, and he sits him for the last 5 minutes of the game when we really needed a bucket. I mean, I believe both teams, Calipari and Pitino's team, they went 4 for 25 from 3-point line, which, the 3-pointers have been getting out of hand. So I like to see a good bruiser, a good battle in the paint, no problem. But
you got to get those offensive rebounds.
Yeah, and I understand you want to sit the kid. That is hard-nosed. But, man, it was tough to watch not having a best player in the game at the end.
At the end of the day, though, you can tell with Pitino, it's bigger than basketball. He sits him, teaches him a lesson, but then afterwards at the press conference, all these reporters, once again, trying to get the clips, they're like, oh, why was he sitting? What happened? Pitino, God love him, didn't throw his player under the bus. He said he played 30 minutes, and we've got a bench, and the bench is going to come in and play, and that was my decision. He didn't throw him under the bus.
Well, it's the next man up mentality, and I can't be mad at him for that. He's teaching discipline, and he's teaching, just the other kids on the bench. They want to get in. They want to be involved. So, yeah, I'm really happy for what he's done with the city. I mean, he was just down the road at Iona for a couple years until he got his shot with St. John's, and and there's some, we love a good buzz in the city. And this was a real solid injection. And you actually were at the game up in Providence, weren't you?
I'll tell you, I was, got some family up in Providence. It's only a couple hours north of New York. You just get on 95, I survived the trip up there, and I'll tell you, that city was a buzz. A lot of great programs coming through there for the first round of the tournament there. But I'll tell you, Patino, he's got MSG a buzz now. I mean, they're filling the Garden for these St. John's games, which you love to see because, a couple of years ago,
it's a grim scene here in New York.
It's awful, it's pretty disrespectful, I think, to the history of this great sports city. But Patino's got him on the right track, and his son will be joining him in the Big East. Richard Patino just took the job at Xavier, so we'll see. We'll get a little Patino rivalry going on, which is excellent. I'm all for that.
Well, it was interesting seeing New Mexico, and they played Michigan State. I'm a Tom Izzo guy myself. And they kept showing Rick Pitino behind Richard, and I think it was maybe poetic justice that both of them got bounced, or as we like to say, they got whacked in the tournament a little bit earlier than they thought they were going to be.
Well, I'll tell you, I watched those games.
Calipari did what he did. He blew a big lead in the last 3 minutes.
I'll tell you though, I watched those games
to Kentucky for getting rid of him.
Where those teams were eliminated, and I couldn't help but notice some of the officiating. Little harsh on these teams, on St. John's, on Arkansas when they lost, on New Mexico, and I can't help but chalk it up to anti-Italian discrimination.
Big problem. Big problem happened around all around town. You hate to see it. What about all the stoppages though? At the end of the game, they got to do something about this instant replay. There's nothing instant about it. You know what I'm saying, Gord?
There's nothing instant about it.
It's really ticking me off. Last night, or just 2 nights ago, Florida was playing, who was it? Texas Tech, and both the teams were out of timeouts. I said, thank God. We got 2 minutes of uninterrupted basketball. No timeouts. There's nothing they can do.
That's the exact point where the good coaches separate themselves too. They don't let the game get away from them.
What do you know? There's a pass, inbounds play, simply tipped off tipped off of Florida's hands. Very obvious, very clear, and they go to the monitor to bring back 0.2 seconds onto the clock. They take 3 minutes to put 0.2 back on the clock. Why? I think they were just trying to give the coaches a timeout because I don't know why. There's no advantage, and it doesn't make any sense. It really boils me up. I just don't understand. We're putting 0.2 seconds back in the clock. That's not going to make a difference. We know who the ball went out on.
I agree 100%. And the worst part of it is, it's not just basketball. It's not just football. Did you see what they were doing in baseball spring training this spring? They were using the robo-umps where you could challenge a ball and strike. Absolutely unbelievable.
I know you like. Baseball may be your favorite sport.
They're taking a national pastime and they're making a mockery of it with these replays and these umpires. These umpires have the job for a reason, and it's a human game. It should be officiated by the humans. You make a bad call, you go out there, you argue it a little bit. You get the chance to get thrown out, fire up your team. God knows Aaron Boone loves to do that over there in the Bronx. It's just part of the game. And I think, there's this movement to, create efficiency. But what they're doing is they're sterilizing the game. They're taking the human element out of it. Pretty soon it's like, why even have the players go out there? Just put them into a computer and have the computer decide.
Yeah, get your kids Madden, NFL 2005. Just throw it into the computer. Let them tell us who won.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you though, as upset as I am with some of the direction that Major League Baseball's going, every spring I come back, and the great Bill Veeck once said, there are only 2 seasons: winter and baseball.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, it's great to be back. We had opening day. Very recently. It was great to be out at the park and see everybody again. And, we got the Yankees and the Mets, kind of getting started here a little bit. Of course, the main line for the offseason was the Mets stole Juan Soto away from the Yankees. Could you believe the contract that Juan Soto signed? 15 years, $765 million.
I know. And coming off the heels of the World Series loss, and then losing Soto, obviously it was all that buzz the whole time the series was going on. And then, of course, we find out the Yanks offered 16 years, $760 million. So we're talking about $5 million here, Gord. $5 million. We'll let this guy go for five. I know there's some other things, like there's more guaranteed money. It really was a better deal from the Mets, but
well, and the Mets gave Juan Soto a luxury box at Citi Field too, and I guess that's part of it. But the craziest thing for this contract, and from my point of view, Juan Soto got $75 million as a signing bonus. Can you imagine, Dick? You imagine sign your name and you get a check for $75 million. I think I had a dream like that once, and then I woke up with a hangover.
I know exactly what I'm doing right there. I'm going to see the ponies. I'm going to the park. I'm going to go put some money down. And
that's the thing. You take that $75 million, you turn it into a lot more. You play the ponies.
One quick race, another minute and a half. That's all you need. I know losing Juan though. I mean, so what the problem is. This is gonna. I mean, we of course, and then Garrett Cole gets hit.
The hits keep on coming. The Tommy John.
So we lose the series. We lose Soto. We get Garrett Cole, Tommy John. We're losing him. And this is gonna kill Aaron Judge, dude. I don't know, man. He led the league in RBIs last year, but I would. If it's not Pete Alonso this year, then I don't know. There's no way, because Juan's always on base.
Soto away, there's nobody to protect Judge in the lineup. But getting back to the Cole thing, I mean, as soon as that news broke, he's going for an MRI. Anytime a pitcher's going in to get some imaging done, you always know what's coming. The Tommy John's coming, and me with my son, he's focused on the baseball. When the news broke, I cut out the piece in the New York Post about it, and I put it on his door. I said, if you're focused on the baseball, this is something that could happen.
It's a very real possibility. Just last week I had dinner with a good friend Teddy. He works with the Indians, Cleveland Indians. He's been a trainer for about 36 years, and I was talking to him about the spin rate and talking about Garrett Cole, Teddy Blackwell. He told me, he said, Dick, he said, this spring, he said, we got 36 pitchers in the program across all divisions, and he said 16 of them had Tommy Johns.
And then there's guys that get it twice in their careers.
That's like 45% of the pitchers on one team. He said that's the same across the whole league. Mm-hmm. I said, Teddy, what are we going to do about this? He said,
when these teams are throwing around this type of money, it's a tough decision as a pitcher. You leverage your long-term health for the short-term gains, and I don't understand all these sabermetrics, all these nerds coming into baseball with these numbers and computers, but I guess there's a purpose to it. And some of these guys, I mean, the things they're able to do with the baseballs now, and you can't even doctor them up. I mean, it's not like Gaylord Perry back in the day with the spitball. You got the nail filer in the back pocket, Joe Niekro style. I mean, it's totally different now. But I mean, man, these new metrics, these sabermetrics, they're eating people's arms for lunch. And you hate to see it.
But then you got Nolan Ryan back then.
He pitched for 50 years. Crazy.
He pitched 2 back-to-back nights, full games, 250 pitches in 2 days. He was fine.
And he beat the shit out of Robin Ventura. He charged the mound. Ventura's 20 years younger than him. I mean, baseball's changing. I don't think there's anybody in the league now that can do something like that. And he threw hard too. I mean, there's ways to do it. There's ways to do it without sacrificing your arm.
I'm glad that you took that time to talk to your son about it and just let him know, man. This is a reality of the game, and it's almost unavoidable these days. So he's got to be ready for those. The rehab and the process it takes, and it's a long process sometimes. So
you know what they say: you play stupid games. Old. Sometimes you can win stupid prizes, and
Garrett Cole, how old is he? Like 34?
He's got to be getting on up there.
Maybe So
and you never know with the Tommy John. They come back. They're not the same.
Tommy John.
Never a good time.
Never a good time for the Tommy John. So I don't know. I think if I know one thing about baseball season this year is the Yankees. I think they're still projected to maybe win the division.
The Red Sox spent a lot of money this year. They traded for a pitcher. I don't have any confidence in Aaron Boone. This is what they always do. They go off to a hot start. They go into the All-Star break. They're leading the division. They're projected all these things, make the playoffs, win the pennant, and then the injuries hit. And Aaron Boone, he can't manage the lineup. He can't manage the pitching staff. And I frankly, I think he loses the clubhouse come August. You lose 5-6 in a row on a West Coast swing. You come back. He's just not the type of charismatic leader that we've been accustomed to all those years. I mean, we had Joe Torre, Billy Martin back in the day. It's just even Buck Showalter, early 90s, those rosters weren't great, but they played hard for Buck. And Aaron Boone, I don't know. I never understand the commitment to him. We've been talking about this
for years. And last year, obviously, when we had, with that lineup, how do you not make it to the series?
That's the thing.
No one's impressed here in New York. We had to bring it home, and we did.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Anyway, I think that
it's early
we're
in the
just
going.
happy-
We'll see what happens with our Yankees.
We're just happy that the baseball is back. You know, it's a little early in March. You know, I mean, you know, it gets early. They start early and earlier this year. Earlier and earlier, they start the regular season. I mean, did you see they had games down in Japan? The Dodgers played the Cubs. I mean,
Yeah, they played like March 17th.
it was like 6 a.m. here on the East Coast, and I can't watch that. You know,
No, I can't.
I mean, I know you're walking the dog at that time every day, but you know that's your dog time.
That's my one rule. I don't watch sports before I have my breakfast, and if the game's on that early, I'm not watching. You know,
That's a good rule.
I got to draw a line in the sand. I have my limits, but I'll tell you, you know, all this speculation about the Yankees and Aaron Boone. When you compare what's going on in the Bronx with the Yankees with our professional football teams, you know, over there in the Meadowlands, I mean, it makes the Yankees look like the assembly line at the Ford Motor Company. I mean, they have things humming over there compared to the Jets and the Giants, both trying to figure out the quarterback problem. You know, I remember last year we were having the conversation about Aaron Rodgers coming back from his Achilles tendon injury, and we thought it was going to be the year. And we're not wrong often, but when we are, we're wrong big, and we were wrong about that.
We got absolutely pulled into the hustle and bustle
What
of
a
Aaron
disaster.
Rodgers. You know, and once, I remember the darkness retreat. And I know you talked highly about going on a darkness retreat on your suspension back a year ago now, and you know that's good for you. But you're not playing in the NFL, right? You know,
No.
you're allowed to be doing stuff like that.
I'm
Aaron
past that
Rodgers, what are you
point.
doing? So Aaron Rodgers, he's in the land of purgatory right now. He doesn't know where he's going. He's probably gonna end up on the Steelers. Or
I'm hearing
not
this
retire.
the Steelers are nothing because I mean even the Browns didn't want him, the Giants didn't want him, but then you get the Giants they say no to Rodgers, which I understand, but then they pivot to Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. I just don't understand what's going on. I mean, and the draft classes is barren for the quarterbacks this year. I mean, Cam Ward's going to go first overall, I think, to Tennessee, but I mean, Shedeur Sanders, I just don't see it.
I'm going to bring in 3 quarterbacks all back to back to back if we're drafting Shedeur. And I mean, we got Tommy Cutlets.
Well, then you
know,
got Tommy
I mean,
Cutlets. He's the eldest statesman of the quarterback room.
Could you believe that?
There's no universe that Tommy DeVito. I mean, God love him. I mean, I love his promotions. I think he's done some stuff with Tommy's and whatnot. But
And James, yeah.
you know, come point in time, I mean, I just don't know if you can rely on him to take you through a long NFL season. But I guess we'll see. I mean, I pose this question to you. We've got the Jets. They signed Justin Fields for 2 years,
Right.
$40 million. If you had to choose between the Jets quarterback room and the Giants quarterback room, who do you feel most confident with? What group of guys going into this season?
See, Russell Wilson stinks. Okay, he
Terrible.
stinks. And I'm not trusting him. He was terrible at the end with Pete Carroll. He went over. He infuriated Sean Payton. And last year, of course, you know, he loses 5 games to finish the year with with Mike Tomlin over there, the Steelers.
I mean, they
Pete
couldn't
Carroll,
score
Sean
20 points in a game. They had a great defense over there, and they
Pete
gave it
Carroll,
all
Sean
away.
Payton, and Mike Tomlin, all Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. You know, obviously Russ won it with Pete, but three great coaches, pretty great staffs, and now you're going to put them on the lonely Giants? No.
No,
We're not turning anything around. We got Malik Neighbors, but the problem is, you know, he's going to be, we're going to get the kid hurt. I already can tell he's going to be in a car crash and at the 50-yard line. It's going to be sad.
Gonna be a
And we're going to
disaster.
lose him. And all of a sudden, Russ, I mean, yeah, dude, they're talking, him and Sierra, all they're posting about is living back in New York, and they're just worried about their, you know, their pride and their,
Yeah, I mean, and
being
that's
a
the
celebrity.
thing. Russell Wilson, he won the Super Bowl with the Seahawks against the Broncos, and it was in the Meadowlands. You remember that night at
course.
that box, and maybe later on we didn't
I
remember
mean, I
too
remember
much.
there's bits and pieces now.
Yeah, I mean,
It's been
but
a while,
Christ,
and, you know.
they won that game 43-8, I think, something crazy like that. I mean, Russell Wilson did not win him that game. He's yet to
League
win
of
the big
Boom.
one in his career, and ever since then, it's Russell Wilson, Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he hasn't shown me anything. And then right after that, he goes and he chokes it against the Patriots up there, which I mean, I hate to see. I mean, Malcolm Butler with that interception.
Well, you know what people don't think about, and you know why the Patriots won that game. Obviously, Malcolm Butler, great play, but you know why they won that?
Why is that?
Because Bill Belichick called a timeout right before that play, and he got Pete Carroll. They were playing chess, and he called a timeout. And got them all.
He didn't call the timeout. He was thinking about it, and he said, "I'm not going to let Pete Carroll off the hook here." That's what happened.
Yes.
I think a couple too many martinis down there in Glendale that night, but it's hard to say.
Drunken history, they call it.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, Justin Fields, much younger, is younger than both those guys. I think he did a great
dynamic
job.
threat too.
Very dynamic. He started off the season 4-2, I believe, and yeah, he's got some problems, but most young guys do. I mean, you see the renaissance over there in Minnesota with Sam Darnold last year. Kid got paid. Why can't that be Justin Fields? So I'm definitely more of a Jets guy. I'm a Namath guy back in the day, and there's no doubt that I'm going to be turning the TV off when Russell Wilson or, God forbid, Jameis Winston comes in. I can't. Give me cutlets at that point.
Absolutely, I agree.
Good locker room guy, though.
I think what you have there is you got a couple. I mean, the Jets, they did the right thing. They cleaned house. Fire the GM, fire the coach, start fresh. The Giants, they're still holding on to the old regime, and anytime you got somebody who's on the hot seat like that, they're not going to make rational decisions. I mean, they're throwing all the chips in on these old quarterbacks. I hate to say it at this point in their careers, damaged goods. They're not as good as they once were. And it's just one of those things. It never works out like that. You're trying to plug a hole that's 15 feet wide. You can't do it.
A room 1,000 years wide.
There's too much water coming in. They're stuck in a mind riot. They're not thinking clearly. And I think the Jets definitely, I think, have a better chance of maybe making the playoffs. I think the AFC a little bit less skilled at this point right now than the NFC. But I mean, you can't tell me that the Giants are going to go in and beat Washington twice. And I mean, you got the defending champs in Philly there. I mean, even you never know with Dallas. I mean, they throw money at the problem, like anybody else, and you never know. The Giants just can't get out of their own way. So I think the Jets are going to win more games, but I don't think come playoff time any of those guys are going to be playing. I think it's going to be very quiet over there at the Meadowlands.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I think we got a long fall coming our ways with these two teams, these two organizations. They're not doing themselves any favors. And what are you gonna do? It looks like I'm gonna have to root for might have to root for the Patriots with you over there.
Do something else. It's tough. I mean, we'll see. See what happens.
See what happens. But that's enough football. We could go on and on. There's a ton of stuff to talk about. But the last thing we got to talk about are Knickerbockers.
Knickerbockers.
Man, we are sitting here, and I also want to bring up this. So right now we got March Madness going on. It's a beautiful thing. But then you got the NBA, and then the last couple weeks of the season. And I tell you what, the product right now, terrible. Absolutely terrible. You got stars sitting, you got tanking. We got tanking is a serious problem.
Tanking,
okay?
Tanking ought to be punishable with prison time.
When you get rewarded for losing your game,
think of the message that's sending to our kids. Right. It's bad enough with the participation trophies and everything like that. Everybody's getting a ribbon. But when you're going out there and you're not hiding the fact that you're deliberately losing games for chance at draft position, I mean, it makes me sick. And I'll tell you.
Remember, we spent all that money to take our kids down to the Garden.
They don't even see the favorite players.
We had the Lakers come into town. We got LeBron James and the new Luka Doncic. Well, could be the new face of the league.
Could be.
And what happens? They sit.
They're sitting.
They sit.
I'll tell you what, it wasn't that long ago.
My kid says, "Where's the king? Where's the king?" I said,
"You're not going to find him.
You're not going to find him. Michael Jordan would have played.
Michael Jordan would have played. Kobe Bryant would have played. I mean, it's unbelievable with the NBA. It's only taken a few short years, and it's unrecognizable from the game that I love. Think of all those battles with Ewing back in the day. I mean, you think he was going to take a night off. I mean, you'd be sadly mistaken. And I'll tell you, we're talking here. I mean, the Knicks are the 3 seed currently. And I'll tell you, it's been a long time since I've tuned into a game. If I'm not there, if I'm not covering it, as the beat writer, I'm not tuning it in. I'm just not interested. Which
tough. Is a lot saying. If you got the beat writer not turning in, then you knew you're doing something wrong. Like I said, you got LeBron James sitting out. The worst part is you got all the stars sitting, and it's still a blowout.
The awful thing too, I don't know why they're sitting, because it's not even like the game's physical. You cross half court and you chuck up a 3. That's it. These guys are winning 145 to 110. I mean, there's no defense and there's no fundamentals.
Just the other day, the Wizards, they put up. I'm mistaken. They let up 169 points. 169 points. Now we're talking NBA All-Star game type of numbers.
I mean, you wouldn't give that up in a week.
One of the kids on the team, he had a minus 40 different point differential for being on the court. If that was me, I'd exile myself and maybe You know what I mean? I mean, that's just terrible.
It's disappointing. I mean, when was the last time you watch a game, you see somebody box out with the correct technique? I mean,
Dennis Rodman back when the Worm was playing. I feel like,
and I think like transition defense, it's a lost art. Nobody knows how to do it. You know, you chuck up a three, you know, it rims out, it goes out to somebody. You know, they huck it up court. These guys aren't hustling back. I mean, nobody's got a motor anymore, and it's just very disappointing to see. You know, and obviously come playoff time, Knickerbockers will be in it, and you know, I'll pay more attention because you have to. And you know, the better part of you wants to think that you know they'll buckle down and play the game the right way, but you know, I have to say I'm consistently disappointed.
Well, so the Knickerbockers, all right. So we had Jalen Brunson. He went out to a sprained ankle, believe it or not, in the infamous game where LeBron James confronted Stephen A. Smith in front of everybody. That was the game that Brunson got hurt. So I'm putting that on Stephen A. too. He put a jinx on our Knickerbockers. I'm always a big fan, but the fact that we lost him. We're 5-5 without him in the last 10 games. He'll be back for playoffs, but it was a pretty nasty ankle turn. Yeah. And Thibodeau, you know how way Thibodeau plays. You know, they're playing 40 minutes. They're playing the whole game. We got a 7-man bench or a 7-man team, 8-man rotation, maybe. These guys are going to be playing. And you know, Karl Anthony Towns, you know, I don't know.
Well,
he's been quite
exactly like what we tell our kids when they're playing sports. You know, they're running around and you know they say they're tired, they want a water break, they want to come out, and we tell them like being tired is a privilege. You got to earn that on the court. And these guys, you know, with the load management, I mean, it's a privilege to be out there, and then the guys away.
And then the guys that aren't playing, you tell them anger is a gift.
Exactly.
And you put those two together, you got a nice bench, you got a nice team to strut out there.
And you got to be ready when your number's called. I mean, I once again, last year we talked about the best athletes of the 21st century. We talked about Jeremy Lin. I mean, when his number was called, he was ready, and he made some magic. I mean, these guys, you know, they're just not... They just don't have that caliber in them anymore, and it's very disappointing. And all the while, it's more and more expensive to go to the Garden to catch a game, and I don't think the product is becoming of the price tag on that. I mean, gone are the days of the $2 beer. I mean, you go up there, you know, it's $18, and they don't even take cash anymore. You got to bring the card. I mean, I don't understand
cash,
what's going
guys.
on.
All we do is have cash.
That's the thing. You know, cash is king. It's still king, no matter how much they try to take it away. You know, so I'm disappointed there. And that's the one thing. I mean, I think the Knicks got a better team than you know, our trio of hockey teams that we've got in this area. But 10 times out of 10, I'd rather go to a hockey game because those guys are playing hard.
That's the difference in hockey. That's the difference in hockey.
We're coming down to the end of it. You know, in the Metropolitan Division, we got the Devils, Rangers, and Islanders, all between 72 and 75 points. The playoff push is on. You know, kind of tough with the Devils and the Rangers. You know, a lot of high expectations going into the season, and it hasn't really gone well. And I'll tell you, if there's a league that recycles coaches more than any other league, it's the National Hockey League. And, you know, I think some heads will roll if, you know, these things don't work out the way they want it to. And, you know, the Islanders over there, you know, they're as hapless and aimless as a franchise. I mean, they got 83-year-old Lou Lamoriello still being the general manager there. And, I mean, I remember him playing goalie for Providence College back in the 60s. I mean, that man, I mean, there's a thing called retirement. I mean, you know, between the coaches, the execs, and the politicians, these guys don't want to give it up when they get old. And the thing that's different is, you know, we're getting on up there in years. I mean, we've been doing this for over 30 years, but, you know, we still have a fastball. I mean, these guys, you can tell, you know, they're just not with it. I mean, you listen to these press conferences, you see the trades that these guys make, and, you know, it's like they've been hit upside the head. You know, I can't understand it. And, you know, I think some of these hockey teams are going to face the consequences of, you know, just retreading these coaches and keeping the old guys in charge. I mean, man, you know, if they had you or I at the helm there, I mean, we'd clean house right away, and you got to establish a new culture.
You know, if we're moving back to NBA, you know, they just fired the Grizzlies coach. They're tied 4th in the West right now, and they fired the coach. And this is a classic hockey move. The Philadelphia Flyers, they used to do this all the time. They fire the head coach at the end of the season, and then they, you know, see what would happen. And that's more common. And you know, with these guys, I kind of think that maybe, you know, it's not too late. Fire a coach, bring in a young guy, and get him through the playoffs. Sometimes you need that spark.
And not only that way you send a message to everybody in that locker room too, that the buck is stopping there. And that's the
No
thing.
one
That's
is
why
safe.
that's why I like Patino so much. He's not afraid to say what has to be said. He's not afraid to yell. He's not afraid to do the difficult things and make people a little bit uncomfortable. But sometimes
He's a
some
made
of these
man,
guys,
so it's a little different.
yeah, exactly. You can't. There's nothing you can do about it. But I mean, some of these guys, they're acting like they're made like Patino, and they're acting not only that, like they've had the success that Patino's had, and it's just not true. And that the team suffers as a result. The fan interest declines as a result, and it's disappointing to see some of our once proud franchises be reduced to these these situations here. But what can we say? We just talk about it on the air. They're not coming to us for the decisions, although they probably should.
Yeah, it's such we hate to say it. We complain all the time about New York sports, and obviously they give us a lot to complain about. But in the past 2 years, there has been a lot of good. Like I said, the Yanks did make it to the series. The Knickerbockers, there's some fire there. They're gonna be feisty. Obviously, we're really happy with St. John's. There's a lot of good stuff going on. So that's why we live in the big city. That's why we live in the Big Apple. We want to be in it. We want to be living it, and we're happy that we can bring you all the good beats for every sports team in the New York area and the metropolitan area. And we're going to keep doing that because that's all we know how to do, really.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And honestly, it's surprising, Chris. Surprising there, Simbin, is there's no games going on tonight.
It's funny. I just went on this thing about how we still had a fastball, and here you are calling me by my son's name, Chris. Unbelievable.
Well, that little whippersnapper, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Sometimes. At this point, it's it's 10:05, and we've got a couple of drinks in here on the air, so I can't blame you for that. I mean, we've all been there, maybe mixing up some names this late into the show.
Well, I can't wait for next week. We're going on our usual 1 week vacation. The Masters are kicking off, and I can't wait to go watch some golf. They still got the great prices for all the food and drinks, so we are gonna have a good time there. So. Go check out Bob and Tommy's show next week, as we are taking our time off.
Absolutely, yeah. So we will be catching up with everybody here in the future, and coming right down the pipe here, an uncharacteristically quiet next couple of days here in the city of New York for sports. We got pretty much all the teams either off or on the road, so more time for us to maybe spend some time at the bar down there and chat with the locals there.
Definitely not more time to spend with the wife and kids. We're going to go to the bar.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Thank you. I hope that got you through your drive. We will be here for the rest of the week, so please consider coming back as you do. And you know what they say. It's a Monday. Time to go get a pizza.
Absolutely. Good talking, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of your drive. Good night. I hope the dinner's pretty good back at home. I think we're going to go over to Tommy's here right now and get a slice.
We'll see you knuckleheads later. Goodbye.
See ya.